Hello and welcome to Pitch Bleak, the true creative crime podcast. I'm Hayden Bevis, and by my side, as always, is Chris Kennett. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Hayden. Today on Pitch Bleak, we will be investigating the mysterious knifing of OOSH, a children's TV show from the mind of beloved comedian and excellent human Damian Callinan. Who or what stabbed OOSH in the back? Was it foul play? Or was it one of those self-inflicted backstabbings that always happen?
Who shushed OOSH? We will uncover all this and more. But first, Chris, has it got legs? I'm going to pitch you an idea just for fun, and this isn't going to be part of it. I'm just going to tell you an idea.
But is this a trick, and then this is the real one?
No, this isn't the real one.
Just to disarm me?
This is to disarm you, but we're not going to use it because I actually want to know if you think this idea is good. Tell us about your dog.
What?
The idea is, right, what photos you have most on your phone usually would be kids, dogs, or pets.
Yeah.
You would have a lot of photos on your phone of your kids, right?
Yep.
But you would be reluctant to be like, Hayden, would you like to sit down and watch or have a look at all the photos of my kids? Would you not? If I had just created a safe space for you and was just like, Chris, tell us about your kids, have at it, and then just show photos, the stuff on your phone came on the screen. And that's the idea. It's a little web series.
It's that, but for dogs.
Yeah, but maybe season 1 is dogs, and
cats.
then season 2, season 2 is cats. Season 3 is your children.
I think it's great if I never have to watch it. I think it's really valuable for people to have that sort of outlet.
Yes.
And in order to spare everybody else having to go through that in their lives.
Well,
let me tell you about my dog. I don't care about your dog.
Well,
Here is the harsh truth. And I'm a parent, as you know. I think my kids are interesting. Other people's kids, I don't care. I don't. I'll be nice about it. I'm not mean to them. I don't dislike children. I just think your children and their achievements is boring. It's boring. And dogs and cats are even more boring. They're not even people. They're not doing, oh, look at him, he's doing, no, it's just an animal.
So do you think the show sucks then?
No, because I think it's serving a valuable social purpose. We record this, you make it, and then you just fire it into the sun.
That really hurts, Chris. That's the most painful feedback I've ever had in my life. Make it. Fucking shoot it off.
Especially cats. People talking about their cats.
Do you think there's enough cat lovers in the world to watch this show?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, okay, cool. So what do you like? What do you like, Chris? If you don't like other people's kids.
You don't like kids. You don't like cats. What else is there? I don't like people talking about what they like. Oh, you enjoy things. Oh, you're proud.
Fucking hell. Has it got legs?
Genuinely, honestly, yes. People will love that. There is a big market for that. It's not me.
You piece of shit. Like, you fucking punched me in the face like 10 times.
Yeah.
That was our last pitch for the season, and that was the most painful one I've been through. Thank you,
And
Chris.
now you are ready.
Damian Callinan is here, and he's ready to spill the beans.
Yeah, he is.
A multi-award-winning comedian, actor, writer, Damian is a veteran of the Australian comedy scene with a stupid amount of shows under his belt, including Spaznats, Double Feature, and The Merger, all of which were nominated for awards.
Well, they won awards. They weren't just nominated, but that's been picky, yeah. I don't know.
This fucking nice. His show, The Merger, was adapted to the screen and turned into a feature film, even bloody chosen as the gala centerpiece at the Melbourne International Film Festival. I'm annoyed at how big Damian's bio is. I want to stop reading it. He's a great guy, a lover of Australiana, a wine wanker, the official mayor of Bodgy Creek. We've dragged him from the Tasmanian wilderness to be here today. Please give an almighty welcome to Damian Callinan.
Thank you.
And you were in Tasmania, that's right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
How was that for you?
It was mixed. I'm going to be honest. The first gig was a cracker at my favourite comedy room in Australia at the Polish Club. And then the second one was in a lodge in the wilderness. And it was literally just performing on a stage the size of a small child's bed in the corner of the restaurant with hue and pine pillars holding the roof up, just obliterating any view of the stage. and a single light that had to be quite close. So it just looked like I was going to get shot at any moment. There was no tape on the small child's bed stage. So I'm quite kinesthetic when I perform.
So this is basically Anthony Morgan's dream gig.
Yeah. And those who don't know Anthony Morgan, you should. I don't know if national treasure is the right word for someone like Morgan. He's like...
Well, he's uninsurable.
He's utterly...
So whether it's Swingman, double feature, even Nuke at the moment, which I haven't seen, and the Lost World War I diaries, what about that sort of history Australiana stuff, like, do you get a kick out of? What about it do you like?
You're right about what you know, and I've always had a love of Australian history ever since I was a kid. I'm a Eureka descendant, so my great-grandfather and his three brothers all fought in Eureka Stockade. So from the age of about 9 or 10, where we studied gold at school as a subject, I remember going home, Dad, and I knew that there was something, when you're that old, I had no context for it, and Dad sort of like sat me down and talked to me about what Eureka was, and it was the founding place of democracy and oppression of the working class by the English and the oppression of the Irish and all this kind of stuff just sort of flooded out. And so I just kind of went on this, kind of learnt, but by the age of 10, I could quote Peter Lawler's Blood on the Southern Cross speech. And so I kind of had that in my head from a pretty young age. And that we had a place in Australian history, I think.
Yeah. Of the interviews we've done so far for Pitch Bleak, and a lot of the murders or these things, they often happen in this world of where art meets money, and like things just don't reach that. Now, Merger got up. You've toured a lot. Am I wrong at saying that you're actually not bad at being able to speak to money from an art perspective? Is that something you've had to learn?
I think that might be a common perception that I create shows and then I find a way to tour them. That's not necessarily based on I'm Carl Barron and 1,000 people will come regardless of what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Carl's profile is not justified, but I don't have that kind of profile. What I do have is a kind of prolific storytelling machine that I just kind of keep turning out new shows that have different niches, and I've become well known on the regional arts theatres circuit. So whatever I pitch, they usually go with. So a lot of that stuff then that gets funded.
You seem pretty savvy about all this stuff.
Yeah.
You've got your networks set up now for touring. You've got people everywhere.
Yeah, I got people.
You've got fingers in pies and hands in pockets. And
I could work in Orange like that.
Right. So you're a made man.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've completely cracked the TV film world. In fact, I'm in the middle of that at the moment in what is, there's always been interest in what are you going to do next? What's your next film? And but yeah, I'm in the process now of pitching what I think is a very good idea, and it's pretty well formed. And I'm getting really close, but I'm not quite getting over the line.
Would you like to ruin it all by talking about it now?
Yeah.
The process of getting the merger up, was that really difficult?
It was, but we made it ourselves, essentially. So I formed a production company with the director and our producer. So she was doing all the grunt work with the funding bodies, and the three of us kind of worked together on it. We got development along the way from first Screen New South Wales and then later Screen Australia. It was pretty much our own grit. Yeah. But other people's money in the end.
Would you agree that maybe people aren't as like in the comedy world aren't very good at pitching stuff or very good at being able to speak in that way in a business sense?
Yeah, probably. And I must admit myself, when I first started with the merger process, I didn't realise just how financially stable the whole thing had to look. You couldn't just go in and just go, I've got this amazing idea and we're going to shoot it on Lord Howe Island and we'll have 900 extras. You have to really go in with a sense of who your audience is, what your budgets are, who's going to be involved, a couple of names attached to it. Yeah, you have to be a lot more considered than just sitting typing away. And I think that is probably the problem. A lot of us just think, I'll just send a script off and hope for the best. I'm trying to change the model a bit and jump in with a production company who's got people who can do that for me. That's where I'm at the moment, rather than going through the completely independent model, which I've done previously.
Are you a small town boy yourself, or are you from?
No, I'm a Melbourne boy, but there is a common misconception that I am from the country, given most of my work and stories tend to stray into regional Australia. I just find it's a better plate to serve a story on, usually.
Yeah.
Are you appropriating regional Australia for your own commercial ends?
Look, I think you could have said that once, but I spent so much time out there now. I reckon I've earned it.
You've been naturalised.
Yeah. Like I can tell, when I taste a passion fruit sponge at a country hall supper, I can tell if it was made by a Catholic.
All right. Yeah.
That's how good
I'm
I am.
convinced.
That's how good I am.
You said something earlier off air. You're saying you only really started performing stand-up and comedy at the age of 31, you said?
31, I think, was my first gig. Yeah.
I would have thought you'd been around longer. You're such a fixture.
Well, that's still, a long time ago.
No.
in the scheme of things.
That's
but
like 5 or 6
I was
years.
late. 5 or 6 years, yeah. Yeah, no, I was a school teacher, retrained, did a graduate in performing arts, became a drama teacher, and that's what got me on stage. I started with the improv first. Then I pretty much did everything. I did mask theatre.
Is that a Buto?
No, not full boot. Well, Buto does have
But the
masks,
fact that you know what that word means.
Full boot.
No, more no theatre. If I have to pick a Japanese discipline,
Yeah.
And you have to. Yeah.
I don't have to. I'm not really into Bunraku, but let's move away from the 4 islands of Japan. And anyway, so I went through all the different things, and eventually I did stand up. And within a year of doing stand up, I was runner up in Raw, and I won the equivalent at Adelaide, the Make Me Laugh Award. And so I went to Edinburgh, and so I got the feeling, okay, there's something happening here, but we still wasn't making any money yet. Mm-hmm. But then we're starting to knock back things, and then took long service leave and never went back.
Is your class still there?
Do you think Mr. Callinan's ever coming back?
He's ever coming back? Probably not. Probably not at this stage.
Did you enjoy teaching? Was that
I did, yeah.
You actually did?
The more I did it, the more I loved it. Once I found my passion for drama teaching, definitely. It wasn't like I'm running away from this. It was just opportunities were evolving, and it's a restrictive place to work when you're a creative. School is constantly railing against the non-creatives, trying dragging kids out. I need Stephanie, Mallory and Jessica to come and put lycra bags on in the open area. Teachers just going, oh, really? Again? Yep. Principal's asked for it. We've got guests coming through from Japan.
All right. I think it's time to open our investigation book.
Well, it's all relevant.
Oh, it is. Well, now that we've established that
It's a pattern of behaviour.
Well, we are going to talk about children's television and the fact that we've uncovered that he is a teacher. This might help us. Tell us the story, the life and death of OOSH.
So the story begins with, in my stand-up career, because of my education background, I started doing heaps of education events. And I had previously done a one-man show called Speech Night, which was based on a fictional Catholic boys' school, and I'd performed that at professional development days. But I started getting invited to host literacy awards and playground beautification events. And often mixed crowds. So you've got like government ministers, but then kids and then educators. And so I kind of developed this reputation for being able to handle that, to make the kids laugh, keep the adults entertained. So out of that came a relationship formed with the Australian Children Television Foundation. In particular, a woman called, I hope I get your name right, Jenny Morland, I think is her surname, and she was fantastic. Anyway, she saw me at one of those events, and then she got me to host a couple of events at SPA, the Screen Producers Association conference, like panels and stuff for children's television. And it was a real opener. I'd never been to SPA before. I was up on the Gold Coast. And because I had a little bit of a profile too, I just let people go, oh, and they just like slide me a document. Go, okay. You just get pitched at. Like I got pitched at in the toilet.
Did they talk to you?
Sometimes not. And they just hand me a document about just a one-pager on their show about a talking Lilo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, thank you. And you'd be good for this. And you just knew I wasn't good for it. It was just I was there, and because most of the people were producers and I was a performer who was on telly a bit, I was just kind of – it was a really strange event. Anyway, I had dinner with the people from children's television. They said, we love what you do. We'd really love you to pitch something to us, like a kid's show, because what's lacking is stuff coming from the comedy world. We feel like you would break it open a bit. And I went, oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That sounds fine. And around that time, I had done a kid show called Babysitting. Very simple concept. that I turn up and I think I'm babysitting 3 kids and there's an entire audience there. And so I'm kind of like talking to the mum, go, yeah, go shopping, have a coffee, you take your time. I've got nothing on. So, yeah, you've left a list of things for me? Okay, yep, all right, well, I'll get to that in a minute. And then I turn around and then you hear the car drive off and then it's like, shit, okay. So basically the whole concept of the show was a hapless man suddenly having to babysit 100 kids. And I treated them like they were one. And I treated the grandparents, the parents, all as if they were just some weird family who all just, for some reason, all just sat in chairs and didn't have beds. And I just constantly questioning their existence. And I'd do banter with them going, what do you do for a living? I go to school. What, do you all go to school? This is weird. Make stuff up. So I get them to make stuff up. Oh, what do you do? I lick roads. That's better. Come up and give us a demonstration. So it was very interactive. It was fun. And then I have to keep reading the list and go, oh, shit, I'd have to go off stage and I would come back on as other characters. That was the kind of the nonsense world that I created. But it was very much adult man out of his depth. So I came up with the idea of OOSH and they asked me to put a pitch thing together and I pitched it to them and they said, we really love this. Can you write it like this? Initially I didn't know what they meant, but they said, we've got a pitch competition with the ABC and we really want you to win. Oh. Pretty much is what they said. If you pitch it like this and do this, like basically told me how to structure the playbook. And so the loose premise of OOSH was a very similar thing. It's 2 guys, I think they get kicked out of their share house and then end up in this place that's got a flat above the OOSH.
Oh, the out-of-school hours.
The out-of-school hours place. But then they realise, oh, shit, the deal is we've got to run the OOSH. And we're dodgy, but not criminal dodgy. We're just a bit hapless. And so I picked Mickey D, Adelaide comedian, who's just a really great natural clown. We work well together. I kind of play the more avuncular, I'm on top of things, but not really. And he's just kind of wide-eyed. He's like an extra kid in the OOSH, really, but well-meaning but perpetually confused. So I got Mickey on board.
Was he keen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We were also pitching a TV show that became a live show called Road Trip.
Okay.
Which we went on to do, which is me and him going around Australia with a filmmaker, and we spend like 48 to 72 hours in the town to make up a show about the town.
Ah, great.
So we were kind of working on stuff anyway. And so all of a sudden I had this, then the prize was to make a pilot, like with full ABC support. I was like, happy days. And we had been talking to Fremantle Media about this other
the road tripping one.
The road tripping show. And that never went anywhere, and we ended up making the show ourselves as a live thing. Anyway, I went in for a meeting with Jason Stevens at Fremantle to talk about Road Trip. I think it was called Blowing Through at that point, the show.
When was this? What sort of year are we talking?
09, 10, 11, around then. And they were kind of into it, but they ended up passing. They kind of pulled out a draw and went, this is how many comedians have pitched to us, 2 blokes on the road doing shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, the meeting finished. It was going pretty well, but it was like, we're not sure where this is going. And he said, anyway, we'll keep working on this. And kind of the meeting was wound up and he said, so have you got anything else? And I went, well, as a matter of fact. And I started to tell him about OOSH. And I deliberately didn't tell him about the prize and the pilot. And I said, I've got a kid show. And he went, yeah. Like straight away, like, yeah. I went, right. And I gave him a bullet point pitch. And he went, yeah, look, we're just not really looking for kid stuff at the moment. And I went, no worries. I've just won a pitching competition. I've got a paid pilot. So anyway, we're just looking for production. He goes, okay, sit down. Literally, that's what it was. And I should have walked away when he went, we're not really looking for it. But as soon as he heard it was funded, he was like, oh.
The $ things clicked up in his eyes.
And also, he can just say to upstairs, I've got this, I've commissioned this show and I've already got a pilot. Like, we all know how long it takes to do that process.
Yeah.
And in one sentence, I've just obviated it.
Yeah.
And fast-tracked it. And he can just ring London and say, yeah, I've got an overseas pilot for the new kids show. What are you guys doing?
So in the world of Jason Stevens, he pitched to like 20 times a day.
Probably, yeah. These days. So Jason is one of the original D-Gen guys. Remember muckraking on the G-Generation?
Yeah.
So Jace was the less, He didn't really go on to do much more screen stuff, but he just sidestepped in at TV production. Really, really lovely guy.
Yeah.
And very successful.
But I imagine someone like him would have the thickest of skin to all pitches.
Oh, absolutely. And I discovered this. You hear how brutal it can be and how honest.
Yeah.
He could be like that, but because we had a pretty matey relationship, I could wear it a bit. But this whole experience, I got kind of all the cliches of, oh, fuck, you've just said that to my face. Really? So the next phase, it felt a bit too good to be true. So we could just pick whoever we wanted to direct it. We got Matt Parkinson on board to direct it. We had a bit of a writer's room, but it was mainly just Mickey and I and Matt. It was all reasonably straightforward. We didn't really have a place to make it, so we were just in the boardroom at Fremantle Media in Richmond. Where things started to go awry was, and I can't remember her name now, whoever was head of ABC at the time absolutely loved the idea.
Oh, great.
Just loved the absolute shit out of it. It just kept saying, I'm so excited about this. And so AB3 didn't exist yet. It was like this was going to be like one of the first shows that was
A launch show.
a little bit. Yeah,
Wow.
that's what we're kind of been made to feel. Anyway, we were in the early stages of writing the pilot, and Jason was kind of coming in and out of the orbit. He just sit us in our room and he said, I've got a meeting with the ABC. And I can't remember whether he even told us, but she had left.
Yep.
And it's the classic case of when the person who loves the project leaves, so does your chances. But we didn't really know. And all of a sudden, a guy called, pretty sure his name is Simon Hopkinson. He's one of the guys who is credited with being the creator of Bananas and Pajamas.
Okay, all right.
So runs on the board in kids television. So he comes in as the head of kids, and you can tell from the first meeting, and I reckon it was 17 minutes before he looked at me. That he just wasn't into it. Just kept asking kind of really mealy-mouthed questions and just, this flies in the face of all acceptable wisdom about children's television. Because the agency should always come from the children, and just, this is weird. It's like he's just nudging bits of paper around the table. So, normally the children are at the heart of it, and it feels very much like it's not. It feels very adult-driven. And it's
Where were the children in Bananas and Pajamas?
Good point. And also, Mickey and I both have done a lot of kids' comedy, so we're also going, we know what makes kids laugh because we do it all the time. We physically, we're in the room with them, and the way that we perform with them works. And so what we're trying to capture is that, but in a context. He's like, yeah, right. Do you guys have to be in it? And that's when I knew. I went, okay. And I thought, what does he mean? First I thought, does he mean they'd get kids to play the supervisors, the OOSH? But it's just like, no, just having comedians, and I just think actors might be able to pull this off better. And it's like, mate, and I was like, mate, do you know anything about, it was a little bit, do you know anything about my body of work? I am a character comedian. And Jace wasn't on board enough to be sort of supporting. You could just see him just going, oh, well, this is probably not going to happen. But we no longer had anyone batting for us, and Jason never really was batting for us. It was just expedience.
Was he just sort of going, yep, they're out. Yep, kids, yes,
he was
bananas.
Not really, but at the end of the meeting, he was going, oh, well, something to think about. It's like, no, it's not. And I was becoming, so I just kind of felt we were just being nobbled. And by the time we made the pilot, I felt like it's a bit of a waste of time. I don't think we took on board a lot of the stuff, and just the whole idea was there'd be a core cast of kids, and the kids would be, a couple of them in particular would always save the day. And we leaned on that because that was what he was essentially saying that it needs to. And I've had the same thing when I wrote a kids' book for Penguin Random, and they did the same. There was a lot of that in the early meetings. This goes against all the rules of children's literature.
Where are you learning this? School is this being taught at?
It has to be the kids who fix everything. But I don't agree. I think having interesting, fun adults is... And so he has a great cameo. Celia Piccola played this goth who did art and craft. And she lived in the cupboard.
That's great.
And so the cupboard door would just open and a goth silly Collar would come out and teach them how to make coffins for their Barbie dolls, I think it was. Really fun stuff.
But you actually made it, though. You were doing it.
So we made the pilot.
Was it hard to put passion into it knowing that it wasn't? You probably weren't going. Was it still actually enjoyable to make?
Look, there was probably still part of me that hoped if we make a cracking pilot, they can't turn around and go. But that helped because we're proud beast performers anyway. You try and do your best work all the time. I certainly do. And I actually thought it came up pretty well. Hard thing actually was finding funny kids, finding kids who could do the comedy the way we'd written it. There was a kid who was like, he was dressed in kind of like, he was straight out of Bridge Over the River Kwai, British uniform and beret. And anyway, the joke was that he'd escaped from about 48 OOSHs, constantly digging tunnels and trying to get out. So he had to kind of play this, oh boy, come over here. I just wanted him to try and escape. And he disguised himself as a plank of wood. Just always trying to get out. But he just couldn't quite pull it off.
So you made the pilot.
Yeah.
And you'd completed it, edited it, done all this stuff. And then you were like, oh, we'll hand it over and just hope for the best. Is that the next step?
I'm just trying to recall because it felt like we did that and then we just never heard anything ever again.
Oh.
That's what it felt like. Like Jason didn't chase it. We didn't have any direct contact with the ABC, and so it was completely up to him, and he'd moved on to other stuff. And yeah, it was like it never happened.
That is bleak.
Yeah, it was really bleak. It wasn't even like we had a meeting and look, okay, it didn't work because of this or this or this. And the longer we thought back on it, we went, well, as soon as he got the job and he saw that project, it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And there is that thing of, that classic thing, you sweep all the other projects off the desk. This was a classic case of that. But also he just didn't like it. It was never going to work.
And so for the moment for you was do you have to be in it?
Yeah, that was the moment.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Do you have to be in it? Like to my face. And Jace could be like that too. But rather than go, no, the boys definitely need to be in it, he'd be like, do you have to be in it? Not in any way kind of going, I totally agree, but just like, yeah, it's a good point. Do you need to get paid for this? Because...
Do we find out where the previous head, like where she went?
No, because I can't remember her name.
Okay.
She's the only heroine in this story and I can't remember her name.
And it was just like, she just wasn't there.
She just moved to a different department. Oh, it's like local councils during the pandemic. I went back on tour and you go, oh, is Virginia there? And I go, no, Virginia works in waste management now. Like they've all just moved them out because there was no arts. They just like, no, she's on the moon. We've got a recycling depot up there and she's pretty...
I'm sorry to say, it's a story we've heard before on Pitch Bleak where there's a horrifying lack of closure on what happened.
Absolutely.
And just nobody telling you that
it's not happening.
Damo, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like the audition process, where you think you've nailed it and you just... There's like that ticking clock of the first 2 or 3 days where you go, I'll probably hear by Friday. Tuesday, no, I'm never going to hear from them. It's classic after what you think's a really good date, never hearing from them again. Just, it's... Occasionally you get surprised. They go, oh, sorry, we just got really busy and, we'd love to call you back. So really? Like that was 9 weeks ago. What have you been doing?
How accustomed are you now to like copying that type of news? Are you just like you're okay with hearing that or is it still?
Oh yeah, you have to be. And also your whole world doesn't rise and fall on one decision. You can't have all your eggs in the one basket. And I think I learned that. I went through this period, and I kind of alluded to it before we came on air, where I'd been on Skid House for 3-4 years. I was on Before the Game, doing radio. All these kind of media things were happening all at once, and you get fooled into this world of, it's always going to be like this. And for some people it is, but it's a small percentage.
We're going to agree. It is dead, right? Like the idea.
Yeah,
so some of the ideas that we've had in Pitch Bleak, they could still be alive. But OOSH, is it done? Like you wouldn't touch it again?
Not deliberately. If someone opened the door and just threw it at me, I go, that's where that went.
But that's kind of how it started, didn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I think that's the thing. Like it was, as I mentioned, I was very much pushed into the lane. Just you should do this. Oh, make a kid show, all right, and come up with an idea. And I've been in that situation a few times, and it's really good. It's amazing how much easier it is when you're a creative person. If someone says, "I'll come up with something around this," and the merger was like that. I got approached by Regional Arts Victoria and Vic Health to write a show about racism with no brief, almost no brief, other than we're trying to use the arts as a mechanism to reduce the physiological and psychological impact of racism in regional communities. It was one of those kind of classic.
Damo, could you just could you fix racism?
Yes, so I did. I already have. It got broken again just afterwards. But
there was a period for a good half an hour where it was like, he's fucking done it.
He's fucking done it. So, I just got asked to do that. And then I came up, they said, you've already got the characters from the Bodgy Creek community, which featured in my other solo show, Sportsman's Night. And then I reasonably quickly came up with the idea for the merger that became the show, that became the podcast, became the film. So sometimes it's good. And this was the same. It's like, I wouldn't have thought to do that. But this is actually, I think it's a good idea. The idea of two hapless blokes trying to run an after-school care centre is hilarious.
Even for you to receive do you have to be in it? But you're like, you told me to do this show. Now you're offending me?
Yeah, I think that's probably why that was so insulting. It was like, came from someone who's gone, you're incredibly good at performing to kids and creating funny ideas for them, to someone who reads the idea and goes, yes, you're right, he is, to someone else comes and goes, who's this? What's this about? And having never seen me do a single thing, probably, he wouldn't have known me but I just didn't fit the criteria of what general practices of children's television. Because of that sentence, I think of it all the time. So all the way through the whole making of the merger, I had the back of my head, do I have to be in it? Even though I've been playing the character of Troy Carrington, the lead, for 20 years. If it was going to make the film, then I was happy for someone else to do it. But in the end, people went, no, of course you were doing it. But I think it was because I had that in my head.
So that became a little personal, almost mantra for you to challenge yourself.
A little bit, yeah. I think because that was coming from someone who was completely ill-informed about my work and the world that I've come from, who just had opinions about children's television. I wasn't going to wear it.
So one of the questions we always ask to our creatives here, do you think it deserved to die, or do you think it had more life in it?
Oh, it definitely had more life in it. It wasn't given a chance. Yeah. I'm not saying that the pilot was perfect, but I think it would have done okay if we'd made a series. We had copious ideas, and it would have been a great vehicle for bringing kids, guests. Every episode we're going to have a guest kid. And a very basic concept, like just single, like studio shot. It's nearly always in the OOSH. Would occasionally film little outside things. Oh, I haven't even told the best. There was a character who was pixelated. Because, when you're in schools, there's always that kid that you can't photograph.
Oh, yeah.
Because of, family court issues. So we had a kid. We never kind of explained what his background was, but he was pixelated all the time. And he was just referred to as the pixelated kid. Just constantly doing cameos. And we had, it was going to be a whole episode about his pixelated family. And there's a two. We go, oh, wait, see, there's no family court issues. No, that's my pixelated mum. That's my pixelated dad. We're just all pixelated. But we're always like 10 hooks, going, are you allowed to be in this pixelated kid? Yeah, of course I'm allowed to be in it. What do you mean?
Do you think you could have done it differently to get it up, or it was just inevitable?
I don't know how you could do it differently other than just make it independently. But because you were given the keys to a really good car, but then it just got parked in their garage and we had to walk away and they changed the locks.
I want to be devil's advocate here.
Yeah, please.
For a minute, Damian.
I feel too supported.
Yeah. You've had it.
So
you've had it pretty good.
I had it pretty good, yeah.
The question was put to you, do you have to be in this?
Yeah.
And you took offence at that. Like, fuck, yeah, I have to be in this. It's my show. I know what kids like.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the implication of that question is, what are you doing in this world? What are you... You, Damian Callinan, coming into the children's television world, the children's television market. This place is not for you. You don't belong here.
No, clearly.
Yeah. And have you gone back? I mean, have you done any more you haven't tried another children's TV show?
No, but I've re-entered the space as far as writing children's literature.
Exactly. So you've got your children's book I'm going to put this on the table.
Yeah.
There is a trend
Yeah.
in publishing
Yeah.
of comedians
Yep.
writing children's books.
Yeah.
Where before that was not a traditional publishing pathway. This has become a thing.
Yeah.
It's proliferated, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. So if any of those people got 12 years of education experience and done kids shows on a fairly prolific rate, wouldn't have thought so. What I'm saying is I'm overqualified.
Yeah.
No, look, that has been put to me before, but I pitched an idea and it got published. So
suck it, Chris.
suck it. And to be honest, it didn't get published because of I don't have a big enough profile for people to go, this is going to sell heaps of copies. They like the idea.
Chris, can you name and shame who you're talking about?
No.
What's an example of someone?
I can.
All right, go.
So Ando. Ando's the most prolific.
Yeah. See, no, I would give Ando a pass because I think he's so prolific. He's ubiquitous in that market almost. He's got multiple series.
He's prolific and kind of appeals to a broad demographic too. Like Cal Wilson's done kids' books.
Yep.
Pete Hallier.
Andy Lee has one, I think.
Yeah, mate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Got a couple.
Rodney Rood. It's got some picture books. I don't know.
But none of them
Probably
are
doesn't.
teachers.
No.
With 12 years.
I just,
12 years.
yeah. If you could just cut this so that it's just my pomposity it comes through. No, none of the gracious stuff.
It's time to find out who killed it. I feel like this might be a bit of a open shut case, but Chris is going to read out his list of suspects who could be the one to have stabbed OOSH in the back.
Okay.
Based on the story today, we have some suspects.
We do. Was it the ACTF? Was it Jenny Morland? I'm seeing her name come up a lot on this list.
No, I think they might have planted the murder weapon unwittingly.
Mickey D. Inside man.
He didn't seem to be present for a lot of this.
No, he wasn't. I can't remember him being in any of those key meetings. Did help that it was being made in Melbourne and he lived in Adelaide.
Okay.
Look, it's got to be said, Jason Stevens at Fremantle.
Let's just say Jason didn't look after the crime scene particularly well. I don't think he
fled readily, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got out ASAP.
He left a lot of weapons around. And he could have rung an ambulance even, but he didn't.
Did you feel not support, like, when it was all happening? Were you hoping he'd help you out at some point and make you feel better?
I mean, it was, a lot of it's inexperience too, being in that situation. If I was doing it again now, I wouldn't do what I did. I would have found someone who really wanted to do the show.
Well, there was that moment that you mentioned because you'd gone in and pitched it, or in the process of pitching it to Jason Stevens, and he said, no, we're not really looking for kids' shows.
It wasn't.
And then you had that moment of, well, I could walk away now. But well,
just a little flex on yourself.
Little flex. I probably went to that meeting thing. I'll probably bring it up, but I'm not going to open with it. And also, I probably should have shopped around more.
Could be on you.
Could be on me. Yeah.
We have the unnamed head of children's at ABC who initially loved it.
Loved it, yeah.
Kiss of death.
Yeah.
We love this and we're definitely going to do it.
I didn't really thought of it. The more she loved it, the more he would not.
And then you've got B1 and B2.
B1 and B2, yeah. Their work's all over this.
Did we name this man or not?
Simon Hodkinson, yeah.
Are we just going to straight up say that's the murderer?
Fatal blow came from him.
But look, you've got to track this all the way back. There was a lot of dirty pool around basically fixing this pitch competition.
Yeah.
We want you to win this.
Yeah. I feel sorry for the people who didn't win it now, who might have got their pilot up.
The irony being, if that was the plot of any episode of children's television, it would revolve around that person needing to fess up and be honest and give up the thing which they had illegitimately gained.
Yeah. Do you need to be on this podcast?
Do you keep your eye on children's TV at all? They can be like, that's good, that's good.
Oh, almost not. No. It sounds appallingly blasé, but I'm a bit the same with kids' books. There's some books I read, and I kind of kept getting encouraged to read particular books, but
it's not your
how
stuff.
arrogant is that? Just do my own thing. But I'm not unlearned in that I was a teacher for so many years and was constantly reading books to kids. And
Just saying, you did write this book, didn't you? Like you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've just
Do
heard
you
there's
need
other
to
ways to
write
do it.
this
Yeah.
book?
All right, we've reached the funeral part of the show.
Okay.
Now, are you okay with letting OOSH go into the you're comfortable with that?
Yeah.
So the funeral is, if you need the closure, you can push any of these sound effect buttons and to say farewell if you wanted to, except the green one because everyone keeps pressing the green one.
Okay.
So
Well, I can't reach them from there, so just give me a number. I'm gonna go random.
1 to 8 minus 4, number 4.
6.
That's the farewell of OOSH.
It was kind of a Renaissance flourish. I liked it. That was Simon Hopkinson leaving the room and getting into a palanquin and being carried across the croquet field. There's some children over there. They have agency. Let's make them the hosts. Does Q&A need adults? I don't think it does. Look at the baby Stan Grant.
That was The Death of OOSH with Damian Callinan. Thank you for joining us, Damian.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
Hayden. Thanks, Chris.
And that was our chat with Damian Callinan about the death of OOSH. Chris, thoughts?
I've got a great deal of respect for Damian Callinan as an artist, as a comedian, as a writer, as a performer. I can't help but shake the feeling that he wandered into the bad part of town. I don't want to victim blame, but maybe he was stepping into a zone he shouldn't have stepped.
Children's television, okay.
That's a Badlands.
Have you dealt with children's TV before?
No.
No, okay.
No, don't know what I'm talking about.
And that is the end of our episode. And that, Chris, is the end of season 1 of Pitch Bleak. We are done and dusted for this season. It's been a year.
Keep on trucking.
He did it. He said the line. He said the line. A multi-award-winning comedian, actor, writer. Damian is a veteran. Oh, I fucked that up. Sorry.
Did you leave out Vietnam veteran?
Are you a Vietnam veteran?
How old do you think
Oh,
he
no,
is?
I got thrown.
Evergreen.